Time to take the engine out of my van. Got a couple exhaust manifold studs over here that are loose or broken. Harmonic balancer keeps falling off. Got some other issues going on, so it's just time to take it out. Let's see if I can remember how to do everything. Of course, I'm going to start by disconnecting the battery. Once the battery is disconnected, I'll start from the bottom and work my way up. That's usually going to be a 10 millimeter. Before going under, you want to take a 16 millimeter open end wrench, 15 millimeter socket with extension, a swivel is nice, something to pry with, and a battery. This little knob should just kind of pop off like that, and then this thing slides out fairly easy. The electrical connector is usually real easy, just twist to unlock and then pull it out. This one's kind of stuck. It happens. Bottom side of the transmission mount is 15 millimeter. The head of the bolt is 16 millimeter. Drive shaft bolts are also 15 millimeter. We're going to mark that drive shaft before we pull it loose. This is so we can line it up the same way when we put it back in. Mark both the transmission and the drive shaft so we can align those marks and put it back together the same way. Now, before you disconnect all of those bolts on the drive shaft, chuck the wheels, set the parking brake, and maybe even put it in neutral. If you've got that under pressure, it's going to make those bolts harder to come out, and the van will roll a bit when the last one comes out, and well, that can be frightening. Let's be safe. Yeah, with that disconnected underneath, we're going to capture as much coolant as we can. This $7 deal only goes about that deep into the radiator. Now I'm going to disconnect the wires over here. There's 3 of them that run across the front to the mass airflow sensor, the intake pressure sensor, and the oxygen sensor, O2. Got those disconnected. Lay the wire up on top of the engine because I'm going to take the harness out with the engine. It's just a lot easier that way. And now we need 6, 7, and 8 millimeter sockets to take some hose clamps off. And we're going to need a 10 millimeter to take this whole air box off of here. You can probably get away with taking just the air filter lid off and the filter out, but I broke one a while back doing that, monkeying around. It's just so tight with the cherry picker in here on top of the engine. It's best to just go ahead and take the whole thing out. It's a few 10 millimeters nuts up inside here, and it's either 5 or 6. We can see one's missing here already. And it's really hard to see where the fastener nuts are at to take this thing off when it's all in there. So I'm going to show you while it's out. There's one up here, up by the recirculating flap. A ridiculous length nut driver or socket extension makes that a lot easier. I've got 16 inches of socket extension on my socket here just to reach that nut and get a ratchet down in here. It's kind of ridiculous. Did I say ridiculous? How's that recirculator work there? Vacuum adjust it like that, which closes the door out here. And so it's all the way up here. One, another one down at the bottom, which is over here by the bottle there. Another one on the other side over here. So let's see, as it's in the van, you're going to be looking at it more like this, way up in there. Then this one's right up front. That's easy to see right here by the windshield wiper. And this one's not too bad behind the windshield wiper motor over here. You can kind of get at it. Well, I can't see it now because I've got the whole thing sitting in the way. So there's 1, 2, 3 across the top, 1 in the front, 1 in the bottom. And I believe that's it. Yep. Don't forget to hook up your vacuum line and electrical. Florida Van Man is made possible by support from viewers like you. Please join our Patreon membership package for just 30 cents a day. Membership has benefits uniquely catered to each member. VIP membership for $25 a month has additional benefits including roadside assistance and discounts to our events and parties. There's a couple of things we do not disconnect. First, the air conditioner. Don't pull those loose, it'll be a bad day for you. We just pull all the screws out and carefully swing it down out of the way. Power steering cooler, 4 screws, swing it up out of the way. Wiggle the radiator out with all the hoses disconnected. And then we're on to the, let's see, next we're going to take the belt off. And the power steering pump is going to stay here. AC compressor is also going to stay here. So we're going to remove those 2 items from the motor. Now we don't want to go crazy and disconnect things that can be a problem later, like this hose clamp right here on the radiator. Getting that hose clamp in is sometimes a real problem, so I just disconnect the other end and leave that hose on the radiator. It does help to disconnect the antifreeze level sensor before you pull it out of there. Otherwise, you end up yanking the wires off. Oops. I've unplugged the air conditioner. Disconnected the fuel tank from the filter. The filter is going to come out with the engine. Disconnecting the pump here on the firewall. Try not to get that antifreeze in the fuel filter. Ideally, before you pull the hoses loose, there's a triangle back here on the exhaust. 2 bolts inside of there, you want to take those out all the way. And the 2 nuts up there, we want to loosen them up so that triangle can kind of dangle around on the exhaust system. Going to make it a lot easier to get the engine back in later if that's not tightened up anymore. A couple of things I almost missed here. The turbo had to be, the clamp off the exhaust clamp here off the turbo had to be disconnected to get at that motor mount bolt right there, 18 millimeter. Disconnected the fan and resistor to get the housing out of here, which is all 10 millimeter nuts. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 5 or 6 of those. This hose coming off of here, the return fuel line back. Can we see it? Where can we see it? There it is, the return fuel line back to the tank. You have to disconnect that. And I think this motor is about ready to come out. Wire to the starter, wire to the alternator, both had to be disconnected from here. Time to bring the tractor in. I got tired of making excuses about my engine. Why it makes funny noises and funny smells. So I pulled it out. Setting this replacement one in that we put a new head gasket in a short time ago. Now let's see, I screwed around until well after 3 o'clock yesterday and still managed to get this far before dark, so not too bad. That's not supposed to happen, right? Yeah, she's not a happy tool. I better quit playing around before it blows up in my hand.